Yeah, and look, man, it ain't where you start, it's where you finish. And one thing you cannot deny, that boy is a star. Listen, God loves us all.
Yes, sir.
But some people, he anoints them more. And he's one of them. You're going to see.
That's very true. Let's get to it again. This might be an explosive conversation. It's going to be a great conversation. It is the most important conversation of the day. Shedeur Sanders, some would have suggested, was a first-round pick. Some at times suggested he should have been the #1 overall pick, but he didn't even go in the first round. Shedeur McCoy, start us off. You're always honest. Be as real, authentic as possible. That's what I promised the viewers. Get to it, 2-5. Why was the biggest reason Shedeur fell out of the first?
For stuff like that, right? They don't like that he's secure of who he is. He knows who he is. He doesn't come in there, kiss the ring, trying to fit in. He wants to do things his way, right? And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when you're so confident in yourself, they don't want to see you like that. They want to say, Ricky, whatever you need, coach, I'm going to do this. No, I'm here to play football. I'm here to win games. That's all he talks about. Everything he talks about is all positive. All the messages we keep seeing in reports is all negative. Nothing is about the way he plays the game. Chase, you said something yesterday about the way, he comes off, and you might not like that, right? Et cetera, this, that, and the third. But if you watched TV yesterday, everybody had the swagger yesterday. Everybody had them big chains on. Chains that you don't want to see or they don't want to see, everybody had them on.
Small chain right now.
They was running around looking real confident, looking real flashy. Everything that the reports say, stuff that you said you don't like, everybody was doing it yesterday. But I ain't hear no whispers about that. It's cool, though. I get what's going on. They don't like his style of play. They don't like the way he comes off. I understand that. But the thing is, in football, that don't really matter. Because he's going to go to a team that's going to love that, that's going to appreciate that. Okay, that's your swag. That's how you are. That's your personality. Andy Reid always says, let your personality show. And that's cool. Whatever team find ways to get to him, he's going to go there, he's going to ball out, and they're going to be cool whatever he does then. That's how it works.
That's real.
Real quick before you go. Because it's like, and I don't know how can I say this and still be respectful, but it's like they did the same thing to Lamar Jackson. The way he runs run the ball, the way he plays quarterback, the way he dresses, the way he acts, the way he talks, the way he got jewelry in his mouth or jewelry on his chain. They hated all that. And that's why he waited. But then once he came there, it's been Action Jackson, MVP Lamar Jackson, then everything's cool. I'm cool with everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm cool if you got the gold teeth in your mouth. I'm cool with that. Oh, I'm cool if you got the chains. I'm cool with that. So it's cool. We're going to wait. He's going to take his time. He's going to go out there, he's going to ball out. And then once he balls out, everybody's going to bend the knee and be cool, whatever Shedeur Sanders does. That's the fact.
We go in places here. We go in places here. Why didn't Shedeur get drafted in the first round? I got 3 reasons for y'all. I spent a lot of time. I was up till 1 a.m. last night really mulling over this decision. Why didn't Shedeur get drafted in the first round? Number 1, he didn't code switch. What do I mean he didn't code switch? Shedeur Sanders did not change his identity or how he comes off for the sake of the decision makers. He did not change how he comes off for the sake of the decision makers. And who are decision makers in the National Football League? Primarily non-minorities, primarily white people. He did not code switch. He stayed true to Shedeur. The problem is he didn't make himself more palatable to decision makers. He just didn't do it. And in job interviews, whether it's the National Football League or any job interview, oftentimes it behooves you to make yourself more palatable to decision makers. Shedeur Sanders did not do that. That's reason number 1. Coben, if we have the full screen, put it up there, please. The second reason, his confidence, I believe, it exceeded his perceived ability. That's just real. Y'all ain't gonna like everything I'm saying. It's just real. What do I mean by that? Shedeur Sanders, he didn't work out at the Senior Bowl. He didn't work out at the NFL Combine because he perceived that he didn't have to do that. Well, who else hasn't done that? Cam Ward, but he got drafted in the first round. Jaden Daniels last year, Caleb Williams last year, and Drake May last year, but they all got drafted in the first round. So Shedeur Sanders' confidence level, it exceeded his perceived ability. What other people thought of him was not the same of what he thought of himself. And lastly, people question his NFL ceiling. Let's just be honest. That's what it comes down to. What I love about this show, and I don't know why I forgot this, I'm sitting next to a dude who was a Heisman finalist and went undrafted. So only 3 people were better than my man Chase Daniel in college, yet he didn't even get drafted at all. So people looked at Chase's ceiling and said, oh, it's not that high in the NFL. Shout out to the 14 years you played in the league. So what I'm suggesting is Shedeur Sanders was obviously really good in college, but what you look like in college and what people think you might look like in the pros can be different things. So it was very simple. The 3 things in conclusion. He didn't code switch. Shedeur didn't make himself more palatable for NFL decision makers, and NFL decision makers are white people more often than not. His confidence, it exceeded his perceived ability. That's number 2. And number 3, people question his NFL ceiling. Those were the reasons reason Shedeur fell out of the first
real
round.
quick with the code switch, because, like, what does that really mean? Because majority of the players in the NFL is black.
Yeah. But you got it. You said it perfectly. You said now nobody cares about what Lamar Jackson does. But nobody cares about what Lamar Jackson does now because he's in the door. Nobody cares about what Lamar Jackson does now. Nobody cares that Jalen Hurts rocks this enormous $100,000, $200,000 chain now because he's in the door. I remember this, and you brought this up. I want to give y'all a visual of this so you let y'all know how true this is. I played with a dude, and Shady's talked about this before on one of his podcasts, a dude named Rock Carmichael. He played defensive back for the Eagles. Rock Carmichael was told, you need to cut your hair while being in the NFL. And you could ask Rock, a former teammate of mine, a friend of mine, they told him he needed to cut his hair because the picture of him on the far right was how he showed up to the Philadelphia Eagles. But the picture of him on the left was his team photo before he left the Philadelphia Eagles. It wasn't Rock's choice or Rock's doing. Another friend of mine, Earl Thomas, he came into the National Football League with dreads. They told Earl, hey, you would be more marketable if you shaved your dreads. These are just true stories in the National Football League, y'all. That's just all I'm trying to tell y'all. So when I suggest Shedeur didn't code switch, Shedeur did not make himself more palatable to the decision makers in the NFL.
Crazy.
Wow. Great. That was awesome for both you guys. Look, I hope it's the play on the field and not this anonymous smear campaign, right? Like, and the more you watch the film, for me, I'm going to stick with on the field. The off the field, you guys can talk about. I'm a quarterback. I've studied the game at a high level. I've been with some Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I've been with some Hall of Fame coaches. And when you really just break down the film on the field, I don't think, obviously, teams didn't view him as a first-round talent. Like, I just don't think he's going to have a good career. I don't think that teams wanted to take a flyer on him in the first round because a first-round quarterback, it's expensive. You're tying yourself to him for a long time. And sometimes that's hard to grasp, and that's okay. Teams might not think he has a high ceiling. I think that's probably what it ends up being is that, hey, this high ceiling, we don't know what he can do on the field. His arm's just not quite good enough. He's just not there. All this stuff matters. And I think there's a little bit of an inflated perception of himself. I think that does matter in the whole scheme of things when you're looking at it. Maybe his meetings with team didn't go as planned. Maybe there's so many different factors that we don't know, and we would just be guessing at why he didn't. That's why I want to stick to on the field. He's got an interesting release. It's a little bit of a long windup. Yes, he threw for 4,200 yards. Yes, he took Colorado to heights they haven't seen in a really long time. He took too many sacks. Okay, he took too many sacks. A lot of those people are saying, hey, it was on the offensive line. A lot of those were Shedeur Sanders not getting rid of the football. Okay, he's a very accurate thrower of the football. He's really smart pre-snap, and I think that's one of his strengths. But when you look at the arm talent, when you look at the arm strength, to me, it's just not there. He needs to speed up his play in the pocket a little bit. And these are some of the many reasons why he wasn't a first-round quarterback. We can say all we want, oh, this off-the-field issue, this off-the-field. I don't know. What I do know is that GMs and head coaches and quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators, they want guys that they think they can play at a high level if you are taking them in the first round. And just because Shedeur doesn't go in the first round does not mean he's not going to have a good career. And it does not mean we're hating on him for not going in the first round. He had to eat a little bit of humble pie. I actually loved what he said. He said, just fuel to the fire. Mm-hmm. Maybe that makes them work a little harder. Maybe that makes them want to be a little bit better. Maybe all this stuff, and that's good. That's a good thing to happen. So whoever's picked Shedeur Sanders in the draft, whether it's the second round or the third round, they're going to get a good football player. Shedeur's going to have some stuff on his back. Hey, you know what? Fuel to the fire. I got to prove this. I got to do that. So for me, I think it just comes down to purely on-the-field play.
We'll talk more about that. I want to address that before I can. James Jones, weigh in on this one, big dog. You in Lambeau at the draft, literally, so I'm sure you saw the live reactions of the crowd, 250,000 deep, not seeing Shedeur Sanders get drafted. What's the biggest reason?
It's highway robbery, dog.
Robbery.
This highway robbery, man. You know, they took this young fella's first round dream away, man. I ain't seen so much film broke down on the player. NFL films don't even break down as much film as everybody has broke down on Shedeur Sanders, man. This dude was the number 2 quarterback, number 1 quarterback all year long. Yeah. Last time I checked, He did nothing on the football field to change people's minds on that. People broke down film on this young fella trying to find every possible thing wrong on Shedeur. And they found every positive thing on Cam Ward, on Jackson Dart, and all those other quarterbacks. They did. And I think that put it in everybody's minds that maybe he's not that good, or maybe, yeah, the film does show this. Jackson's Dart film wasn't all that neither. Jackson's Dart film wasn't lights out better than Shedeur's neither. There's no way Shedeur should have went out of the first round. Shedeur should have been the second quarterback taken. I think this has a lot to do with who his pops is. I think it has a lot to do with his personality. I do not think this is strictly on the football field, because if it was strictly on the football field, it's a lot of stuff that Jackson Dart don't do well also. But you're going to develop him. Why can't you take that same thing with Shedeur Sanders? He should have been the second quarterback taken. This is a young kid, man, that is chasing his dream, that truly honest with y'all, man, he did everything right. This dude ain't never been in the media for nothing bad. This dude has always been positive with his team. He did every single thing right. I really would want to sit down with the Giants and ask why. I really would want to sit down with the Pittsburgh Steelers and ask why, the teams that needed quarterbacks, because Shedeur, quarterback at the time, was the best quarterback on the board, man. It's highway robbery. I feel sorry for the kid. And listen, we got a dude on our set that was better than a lot of them dudes that went in first round and he went the second round, and he planned out to be better than everybody. So I'm not saying Shedeur is not going to plan out to be better than everybody, but all I'm saying is you took this moment and this opportunity away from the young fella because of a lot of judging and a lot of knick-knack and all this stuff and picking apart film for 72 days. There has not been a quarterback that has been under more scrutiny and broke down film than Shedeur Sanders. Every time you turned on the TV, it was Shedeur. It wasn't a lot of Cam Ward or Jackson Dart. It was Shedeur. And it was all the little things he don't do bad. Oh, maybe his arm's not here. He don't run here. He take a lot of sacks. How many quarterbacks in college football, Acho and Chase Daniel and Shady, took a lot of sacks? A lot of them.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I'm saying? But we want to just pinpoint on Shedeur. I felt bad for the young dude. And not only that, I love what he said, but I seen the pain in his face, man. I seen the pain in his face, man. You took this away from me, man. But don't trip. Watch. Y'all finna get somebody totally different now.
2-5 way in.
Nah, and it hurt me watching that, though. And I never really, feel bad for NFL players because we get paid to play. You know, that's our dream. Maybe we don't get drafted where we want to. But his case was different because y'all had nothing to really pick at him for, right? And, you know, when I really noticed how the Deion era affects everybody, when I got on TV, okay, so I grew up a Deion Sanders fan. Like most everybody grew up a Deion Sanders fan. He a baller. He got that swagger. We love it. I get on TV and I start seeing all this media, right? And I'm like, wait, nobody likes Deion, right? And the problem is they're trying to get at Deion Sanders through his son. Deion's already done, man. All he does is win everywhere he goes. High school, college, pros, after football, he's a winner. And they're trying to get back at Deion Sanders through his son. Then we get to his son and the stuff that reports we hear about, because everybody keeps saying, oh, it's about on the field. But every report that I see, that I hear, that I read, it's all about off the field. His swagger, his confidence, the way he carries himself, all these things that we keep talking about where I watch every other player, we watch the draft, everybody together. We watch the same draft. Everybody looked confident. Everybody looked like they had swagger. Everybody had big diamond chains. Everybody did. And I'm thinking well, what's the difference? And the difference is the Sanders last name. And it's we keep going back to this. And I look at Shedeur now, we talking about, Jackson Dart, right? And I'm not going to say anything about him because I think he's a good quarterback. He's not better than Shedeur Sanders.
In what way?
As a quarterback, he's not better than him.
I disagree.
I watch how they talked about his running ability, right? It's weird how the media, creates different narratives. So now I watch how they say with Jackson Dart, oh man, he has some similarities to Josh Allen the way he runs the ball. I think anybody that watches this tape is not going to say that. But they're trying to find a way to big up these other quarterbacks and then dim the light of Shedeur Sanders, right? Matt Carroll played for the same coach, Lane Kiffin.
Matt Corral,
Matt Corral, and at Ole Miss. Now, everybody was so high on him. Now, some of that is because of the offense. Some of that is because of play calling. I get all that. But the brother had 500 yards rushing his sophomore year. And his junior year, he had 600 yards rushing. Same thing, right? So it's Then we go to Merrill, where now they say, oh, man, well, he's so good, he might be a first-round quarterback going to the Steelers. We all thought that when Shedeur was sliding, he might go to the Steelers. And then I look at him, they comparing him to the Cam Newtons and the Lamar Jacksons. When you watch him play, you don't see none of that. But it's funny how everything else for Shedeur is all negative about off-the-field stuff. And then for all these other quarterbacks and players, they say how great they do on the field. But when we watch the tape, you don't see that. That's the truth.
There's a lot I got to say. I told y'all we're going places here.
It's terrible, yo.
I think two things are true. The reason, Chase, I can't stick to on the field is because I'm privy to the information that off the field has mattered a lot to certain athletes, right? Off the field, it has mattered a lot. I told y'all about Rock Carmichael having to cut his hair. But simultaneously, the reason I can't just jump to is because of his dad. The reason I can't jump to is because of his race, is because the Steelers had the pick, number 21. Steelers got the blackest of head coaches in Mike Tomlin. Steelers got a minority owner in Khan. Steelers got a minority GM in Khan. Steelers got an ownership group that literally mandates you got to interview a minority when there's a head coaching vacancy.
The Rooney Rule. Yep, Rooney Rule.
The Steelers got a general manager minority in Khan, a black head coach in Tomlin, and an owner in Rooney who mandated y'all got to interview a black head coach when there's a vacancy. And more than anything, the Steelers needed a quarterback. And the Steelers passed on him. So I can't jump to it's because of Deion, because what's the Steelers' excuse? Tomlin and Deion, they've known each other since before I was born. So I think some of it has to do, obviously, with on the field.
Why do the
Steelers
need an excuse?
When you hear all these different reports out there, right? Now, all these coaches and ownerships, they all are friends, are they not?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's times where I know a player might get this. DeSean Jackson, I'll give you a prime example. When he left Philadelphia, they said he had all this gang affiliation, all this crazy stuff, okay, with Chip Kelly. And I remember going to the Bills. They said, yo, we can use that type of deep threat. I said, Shady, man, I heard all those reports that, yo, he's this type of guy. I'm thinking like, so your boys, your friends, your associates that in the NFL, they all are hanging out and cool, right? The GM know this GM, that GM knows this GM, that owner knows that owner, and they all communicate. Now, DeSean was a good player and a good person. But what I'm saying is when the ownerships and GMs get involved and they talk to their people, it's not what I know, it's what my friends are telling me.
That's fair, but I can't, if the reason, what undermines that argument, though, 2-5, and again, I've heard you, so I just got to ask those people to hear me as well. What undermines that argument is the Steelers. Again, the Steelers have shown time and time again they move to the beat of their own drum. Even to your point, Shady, about owners and coaches talking amongst other coaches. Remember, who did the Steelers hire as defensive coordinator or linebacker coach when nobody else would touch him? Brian Flores. Remember, Brian Flores sued teams. Nobody wanted Brian Flores after he left the Miami Dolphins. And Mike Tomlin said, I don't care what anybody else is talking about. I'll take you. So for me, the Steelers kind of undermine the argument of it's because of Deion. Go ahead, Chase.
Well, you said, what's the Steelers' excuse? Those are your words. Why do the Steelers need an excuse not to draft a quarterback they don't deem worthy enough for a first-round pick? And every other team in the first round deems he is not a first-round talent. Distractions probably play into it. And I hate this, the fact that we have to feel the need, some people that, like, to bring down Jackson Dart to build up Shedeur Sanders. Jackson Dart went in the first round. Teams believed enough in him. One team believed enough in him to trade back in to the first round to get Jackson Dart. That is fine. We don't have to take him down or tear him down because of that. Shedeur Sanders, just to prop him up, he is obviously not a first-round talent. On the field, teams don't want the distractions in the locker room. Teams don't want... That's okay to say that. That is okay, right, wrong, or indifferent. We are beating around the bush here. Call a spade a spade. He's not good enough on the field to have a first-round talent because nobody thought the distractions were worth it.
What's the distraction, Chase?
Everything that comes with him, his camp, his off-the-field stuff, everything.
And this is the issue.
It's not the issue, Shady. No, it is not.
When you say off-the-field stuff, though,
all the distractions that Shedeur Sanders brings to the team. All of them.
Do you not think...
Wait, time out, though. Hold up. Let's dissect this real quick.
That's what I'm trying to do. Easy talk.
When you keep saying... It's not easy, because when you say distractions, though, right, and off-the-field issues. So playing in the league, the players I play with, Distractions are guys that, argue with the coaches, right? I want the ball, I'm not getting the ball, I'm pissed off, right? I'm not practicing hard, I'm mad, I'm pouting, right? I've seen guys do that. Guys that want contracts, I see Brandon Marshall, one of my good friends, he was putting the football, putting the football, okay? Antonio Brown, doing things, I'm leaving the field, taking my clothes, okay? That's a distraction, okay? Off the field issues, players I play with, other field issues, domestic violence, DUIs, all these things. So when you talk and you say off the field issues and distractions, you got to elaborate because I don't know what you're talking about.
Let me try to.
No, but can you let him talk? Because he said it. I just want to hear what he got to say.
Shady, how can you sit here, or how can anyone sit here and not say that? I would tend to agree just purely based on the film. That's probably why. But then you pair that with the distractions. The distractions can be Deion Sanders. How is Deion? No, his dad. Like that's a fact. You even said it. The Sanders last name. Okay, do you want, if Shedeur is struggling, do you want Deion to come in? Do you want Deion to, you don't know. Teams don't know what this guy brings to them. Maybe there was distractions in how he handled interviews. We aren't privy to that information, but there's enough information to tell you that there is a distraction that is thought of within 32 teams because they did not draft him in the first round. But I think mostly because of the on-the-field play. But you can't tell me up here with a straight face.
Off the field issues.
You can't tell me with a straight face that not only that Shedeur Sanders brings no distractions to an NFL locker room.
I don't see how, though. So, off the field issues, you going to address that either? You said off the field and distractions. I just want to know what that is. Off the field issues, I just want to know what that is.
I can chime in, but because I'm going to try to mediate a little bit because I fully understand what Shady is saying, but I fully hear what Chase is saying. It's like Tim Tebow was a distraction. Tim Tebow wasn't a distraction because anything he was doing negatively. Wherever Tim Tebow came, press came. That was distracting. Simultaneously, Colin Kaepernick was a distraction for a plethora of different reasons. Not necessarily because what Colin Kaepernick was doing was negative, but it was a distraction. Michael Sam was a distraction. Not necessarily because it was a negative thing, but because whoever drafted Michael Sam, it was going to be the biggest story to be drafted, the first openly gay player. So you can be a distraction without being negative. I want to make sure we don't conflate those two ideologies. So I'm not suggesting that anything Shedeur Sanders is doing is negative. I'm just suggesting Shedeur Sanders is going to get talked about. And being talked about is a distraction. Micah Parsons does a podcast. People say it's a distraction. It's a podcast he does in his free time. Aaron Rodgers does a weekly show. People say it's a distraction. It's a TV show he does in his free time that ain't hurting nobody in society. So you can, I believe, be a distraction without it being. What up, YouTube family? Welcome to the facility. Thanks for watching, and you better be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to get more highlights from the show and all of our exclusive content.